Like I painted in the rain, and
Yes.
it does in watercolor. I have paintings with lots of watercolor with water spots on them.
Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 133 of the Camano Voice. Today, interview the featured artist of the month in the Loft for March. Please welcome Diane Hill. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. Oh, I'm yawning. Now I've caused all of you guys to yawn as well. That was my evil trick. Anyways, I hope your guys' week is going well. Yeah, we're still in a crazy time period. And I do apologize. This is the first episode that I am recording in a new place, which, you know, most podcasts and stuff, as they get older, they get more and more professional and they get better and better. I decided that I was going to try and Benjamin Button this and go the opposite direction. So I have recently lost where I normally record my podcast. So I've been starting to record podcasts in my office. And so there's going to be a little bit more ambient noise, a little bit more sound and things like that. Unfortunately, in this podcast, not only do you have the normal banging and clanging that we have going on here in our store, but we also had someone who was doing some cutting of wood. We're doing some work in our ice cream area. And of course, the time that I took to do this podcast was the only time that was operated during the whole day. So I apologize for that. There is some loud noises. I'm hoping that in the future, you only hear the normal little bit of ambient noise, not this crazy, saw going off in the background. Anyways, that's enough about me and what's going on with this thing. Diane Hill is the featured artist of the month in the Loft for the month of March. And we're a little bit offset now, so really it's the month of first part of March and middle of April. But she has been an artist here on the island for many, many, many years. And she's, you might recognize her by her cards that she's done in here in the marketplace for, again, quite a while now. So it's great because I've seen her watercolor. I've seen her art for a very long time. But, and I know I've met her at some point, but I'm terrible with faces and names. So I've got the double duo there. So it was nice to actually get to sit down with her and meet her and talk with her. And then on top of that, she is one of the founders of the Camano Studio Art Tour, which everybody knows now as the Mother's Day Art Tour. She was in charge of the Roving artist group for many years as well, which she just recently handed off. And she's painted all over the world. She's just a great artist. She's done a ton of work, lots of practice all over the place. So anyways, without further ado, here's my conversation with Diane Hill. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the featured artist of the month in the Loft for March. Welcome to the podcast, Diane Hill.
What do I say?
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast. Yeah, you can just talk into it. That's fine.
Okay. Hi, Brandon.
Perfect. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Diane.
Okay, I grew up in Seattle, went to Roosevelt High School. I got started in art probably in the elementaries when somebody gave me some watercolors.
Okay.
It was something that I loved to do and have been doing it ever since. I went to school at the University of Washington and got a degree in art education.
Okay. Nice. So when you grew up in Seattle, then was that through your whole high school years then?
My whole high school years were Roosevelt.
Nice. So when you got started in art, you said it was with watercolor, right?
Right.
So what was it something that you kind of got exposed to and you just tried it out a little bit, or how was it when you first got into it?
Yeah, and I was just, I remember being really young and being so surprised that you could take a piece of paper and make it look like a tree. So I guess that started me.
Yeah. So when you were, as you were then going, and was that like in grade school or was that in high school?
That was in grade school, but then in high school, I did a mural for the high school, and I had an art teacher that I spent a lot of time with, and so then I decided to go to college in art education. So
Okay. Nice.
since they always would tell me that only 20% of artists made a living at it, you better get an education degree with it.
Yeah. So how was that then when you were, I guess during that, were there a lot of other peers you were around that were also looking at art education, or did many of them go into different directions?
Many of them went in different directions, and so when I went to the study art at the University of Washington, I just mainly hung around with artists there.
Okay. Nice. And so you studied art education then, and did you have like a secondary or specialty or anything that you were focusing on?
Oh, I had a secondary in psychology, but it was mainly art.
Okay.
And I did have a art scholarship, so I just stuck to art.
Okay. Nice. Very cool. So once you were getting done with school, then what was your kind of plan exiting school or college?
Well, I got married and had 3 children, but I also did do art and teach art too.
Okay. Nice. Where did you teach?
I taught in different public schools, and then I taught in private schools too.
Okay. So were you like a, not substitute teacher, but one that would go to different places and teach like during the same time, or were you like moving from school to school?
I moved from school to school.
Okay. Nice. Was that mainly all in Washington?
Yes, it was on the east side in Washington.
Oh, okay. What part?
Kirkland, Issaquah,
Okay.
Woodinville,
Nice.
Redmond.
Very cool. So, so you continued to work as you had your kids with you. When did that? At some point, did you retire from teaching when your kids were still with you, or did you just teach the whole time?
I used to teach the whole time, and I've been teaching up till about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. So, in your when you're doing your mediums, you said you start with watercolor. Did you continue to try out a bunch of different types of mediums?
At the University of Washington, when you're in art, you try everything. You go from watercolor to oil to print making to jewelry making and so forth. So I had a lot of exposure to a lot of different, but I just kind of stuck to oil and watercolor.
Okay, nice. What was it that stood out of those ones, of why you stuck with those?
Well, I painted outside with friends, so watercolor is the easiest to take outside. I do love to paint with oil, but it's harder to take outside, and it tends to give me a headache.
Oh, no. Like the fumes of it?
The
Or?
fumes, yeah,
Okay.
and it used to be pretty strong.
Yep.
It's getting a little better, and they didn't have very much acrylic when I was going to school, so
Okay.
I didn't use acrylics.
Okay, nice. Have you played around with acrylic since then?
Yeah, a bit.
A little
Yeah,
bit?
yes.
Nice.
They dry too fast for me.
Yeah, well, especially if you're used. With talking with lots of different artists, with watercolor, like it's never really 100% dry. Like you always are still kind of like not. It's dry, but like if you do water, it'll affect it again. Versus acrylic kind of stays.
Yeah, well, acrylic dries and then it dries, and there's
Yes.
not too much you can do with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
including on your palette.
Yeah. No, it's neat hearing all the different artists of why they choose kind of the medium that they end up sticking with mostly.
Yeah.
So nice. All right. So so as you were teaching, what other things were you doing outside of that within your artist career and stuff?
Well, we did travel a lot because my husband worked overseas, so we have gone to a lot of different countries. So I've been to a lot of different countries, including Nepal and Thailand and a lot of European countries, because he was in Bulgaria and Norway and Brazil and
Wow. You guys were like
so
all
we
over the
travel.
place.
We travel quite a bit.
Wow. Very cool. So during your travels then, were you able to stop and do painting and all of that?
I have stopped in. I went to Thailand with an artist, Liz Hamlin, if you all know her, and we painted quite a bit. I've gone to Hawaii most every year and painted there.
Okay.
And we went boating a lot up into Canada, so I painted a lot up in Canada
Okay.
on the
Nice.
water.
Nice. What were your favorite places that you've actually gotten to do painting?
So that's it. Hawaii,
Those are your favorite ones?
Canada, yeah, Thailand. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. What were things that stood out to you as an artist when you were painting on location at these different places, as opposed to like painting out here in the Northwest?
Well, the different climates that you have, especially in like Hawaii. Canada's pretty similar, but Thailand, it was hot and dry.
Yeah.
So just the different vegetation in different places. And
Yeah. Were there certain things
Different-
about
di-
like the colors and everything that stood out differently?
yeah, of course, in Hawaii, you get a lot more flowers and bright colors, and the water's more turquoise. And
Yeah.
the sunsets are beautiful, but the sunsets are beautiful here too.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. No, we get some amazing sunsets here.
Yeah.
So
And the
when
people are different
okay.
everywhere.
Nice. Did you do a lot of, I guess, what style of painting did you do when you were out there? Like, was it mainly like outdoor stuff, or did you do cityscapes, or what kind you?
Yeah, I usually do outdoor
Okay.
landscapes. I prefer landscapes, but have done a lot of still lifes. And
Okay.
I do people too, but rarely.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it's mostly plein air,
Okay.
which we do in the summer on Camano Island with the roaming artists. We paint all summer.
Okay. Nice. When you were painting in the more humid spots, did that affect how the paint and everything worked?
Yes.
Okay.
Like here,
Okay.
like I painted in the rain, and
Yes.
it does in watercolor. I
Okay.
have paintings with lots of watercolor with water spots on them.
The rain was trying to help you out there.
Yeah, there, kept it wet.
Nice. How did you guys? How did you kind of work with that then? Like, what would you give if someone else was trying to paint like in a humid environment? Are there suggestions or things you'd come up with?
Just leave it all wet and then take it somewhere when it's dry and work on finish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about the noise. We're trying a new recording location, and now they're cutting stuff, so I might edit that out. We'll see. We'll see if I get that far. All right. So you've done a lot of painting at different locations and stuff. When you were, when did you kind of get started as a professional artist, like apart from just your education side?
Well, I used to do Bellevue Arts and Crafts Fair when I was in high school.
Okay.
And then I went to Edmonds Art Fairs, I went to Anacortes Art Fairs, and I guess that's kind of when.
Okay. What was that? Was that something that, when you were going into art and everything, was that something you were kind of expecting, like, that's what it would, like, you would get to that point, or did you kind of think, oh, I'm just going to be an art teacher for...
Oh, no, I used to sell other people's art and be a rep
Okay.
and sell my own too. And no, I did for sale.
Yeah.
I
So
had
that was something you were
jobs.
planning on doing as you were
Yes.
getting into this career?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Nice.
of course, on Camano Island, we have the roaming artist shows, and we had studio tours, we had 2,000 people at our studio once in a while.
Wow.
At the CAA studio tours.
Yes. Very cool. So, so when did you guys get to Camano then?
We moved up to Camano 30 years ago.
Okay.
So
Nice. How did you guys find out about it?
we had friends that had property up here. And then my husband worked in Arlington, so it was close by. So we moved up here from Kirkland.
Okay.
My kids went to school in Kirkland.
Okay. Nice. What was Camano like for you guys when you guys first moved up here? That's a while ago, so it's a little different.
Yeah, there were no stop signs. There was only the little grocery store at the plaza.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and not so many people. We saw very few people down at the south end, and now there's lots.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you guys more on that south end side of the island
We're
then?
down by Elger Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple
Nice.
miles up from Elger Bay.
Okay. So during that time then, were you part of the? I don't know when CAA, the Camano Arts Association, got started. Were you part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like getting that started?
I had the first poster.
Oh, cool.
It was just a few people, and then Carla and Jack and different people made it a lot bigger, and I watched it grow and grow, and then we had the art studios, which we didn't have at first. We only had a couple people in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how was that getting everything started then? Because like when you're starting something new that like, you know, obviously at this point the Camano Studio Art Tour is massive. There's so many people that come through here on the island.
Right.
But when you got started, it wasn't. It was just a couple studios. What was it like for you guys?
It was fine. I mean, I have where we built our house. We have an art studio right next door, and there's lots of room for parking. So it didn't matter to us. We just had to clean up our yards.
Okay.
So it just grew. You
Yeah.
know, they had good advertising and good brochures, and
Okay. So every year when you guys were working on it, like from the first year to the fifth year, what was the growth? What did that kind of look like over that time period?
well, I think we started out with like 15, 20 artists at the most, and then
Okay.
we had quite a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And with the advertising, it just grew. I don't know how many studios, probably before COVID they
Okay.
had, but
Yeah.
kind of.
So when did what was the traffic like? Because I'm assuming on your first one you guys launched it and you probably had a group of people that came through.
Yeah.
But what did that kind of look like over the first 5 to 10 years of that? Did that just
Oh, it grew every year.
okay?
And, yeah.
Nice.
Till we had to get special signs and have people out checking traffic and
Yeah.
have places to park. But when we checked for studios, we had to have parking
Okay.
and facilities. So
Okay. Nice. So, so as that grew, then did you guys have to work with? I mean, I know Camano doesn't have any sort of like over like it's not like a city council or anything. But did you have to work with different members within the community to make sure that like the island, as traffic increased and stuff like that, that it could handle all of that? I guess.
well, we had to be careful with our signs.
Okay.
So we had to watch where we put them, and we'd talk to the county about it, or the I don't know, whoever is in charge of it, the traffic people,
Okay.
and they were always aware of what we were doing. So.
Yep. Nice. Cool. So then, so on top of CAA, you were mentioning the roaming artists. Tell us a little bit about that group.
Well, it was started with a different name, with the Roving artists, I think, with Ellen Fraser, probably before we even moved here. And when she wanted to get out of it, she asked me if I would take it over. So I did take it over from her, and we changed the name to Roaming Artists.
Okay.
And we've kind of kept it at 30 people, and I had it for 17 years, and then I just gave it away a couple years ago to Denise Jackson and
Okay.
Juanita Hagberg. And now they are putting it together. We've been pretty slow over COVID because
Right.
we used to go to a lot of people's houses on the island, and they'd welcome us, and we'd paint at their house for half a day and have critiques, and then we'd have a show Labor Day weekend, which we still do.
Okay.
So
Nice. So what was the reason for the name change from Roving to Roaming?
well, since she wasn't doing it any longer and she didn't want anything to do with it any longer, we changed the name
Got it.
and kept it going.
Okay.
And it's still going.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So when do you guys start that then? Like when do you start in the year?
We start the 1st of June and we end up Labor Day when we have our show.
Okay.
And you can go twice a week on Monday or Wednesdays. And we go from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12 or 1 and then have a critique. So we only paint half a day.
Okay.
But,
Nice. That's very cool. So then over the course of that time period, then you guys, at the end of everything, then you get to bring your best pieces from those throughout that. Nice. Very cool.
Have you been to our shows?
I don't think I've been to the roaming artist one, no.
Yeah.
So where do you guys normally do your final show at?
We usually do it up by the blue building, which is now a green building by the tennis courts on
Oh, I didn't know
Camano
that.
Island.
I didn't know they repainted that.
They did. I didn't know it. It was just repainted.
Okay.
So, by the animal shelter.
Yes.
So it's up there,
Yeah. Okay.
and it's going to be there again this year.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And that's Labor Day weekend you guys
Labor
have
Day
that?
weekend.
Okay.
Mhm. Saturday, Sunday.
Very cool. Nice. And you said you have about 30 artists that are at each one, but is that a rotating 30 that kind of all show up?
It's rotating. You can go if you want, or you don't have to go if you don't want.
Okay. Nice.
Just
So
paint.
what's kind of the total amount of like number of artists, not in a single session, but like do you have like 60 that are kind of
Oh no, we only have 30.
Oh, okay.
That's our membership. We keep it at that
Got
because
it.
people don't have that many spaces to park cars.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and usually maybe 15 to 20 show up, not usually more than that.
Okay.
And we've had a quiet couple of years here,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens this year.
Nice. Cool. Has there been a lot of chatter as far as like from people that are saying they're really looking forward to this year?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of nice now. Things are kind of opening up again. Now you're getting more options now.
Yeah.
Again. Nice. Very cool. So with your style, how would you describe your style of painting? I know it's watercolor, but how would you kind of describe yours?
It's a little bit impressionistic.
Okay.
It's not realist. It certainly isn't realism, but it's impressionist.
Okay.
So
Nice. Cool. Were there certain artists, either locally or abroad, that kind of influenced your style of painting?
I used to paint with two fellows, with Harold Craig and with Bill Reese, which both have passed away, and they're both great artists. And so we used to go every Wednesday all over around Seattle and up in the mountains and
Nice.
Roslyn. And so they did influence me because we used to paint a lot together.
Very cool. Yeah, those are some beautiful spots along Highway 20 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's great. All right. And then on top of the art stuff, you've also been selling your cards here at the marketplace for quite a while. When did you start doing the cards?
I was trying to think about that, but it's been 10 years at least, probably, that. When did they start having cards there? Do you know?
I don't remember. I just when I go down, like we have birthdays and stuff within the marketplace, and so we usually try to get a card together for that team member. And I know I pick your cards a lot of times when I'm
Thank you,
looking
Brandon.
through. So, but I just love them. They're so unique. I love the fact that I can go downstairs and I can pick a card, whether it's from you or some of the other artists that also do cards. And when you're giving that card to someone, it's like they'll probably keep it on the fridge or something, like just regardless if they care about your message or not. But just because the cards are so cool, like it's actual art on the card, so it's just a really neat piece that it's more than just a card.
And it's usually, some of them, or a lot of them, are local cards. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah,
Thank
no, I
you.
really like them. They're really neat. So awesome. Tell me a little bit about the pieces of the art pieces that you're bringing to the loft.
The ones I just brought to the loft, there's only 6, so they're mostly local, since that's what I've been painting lately. We haven't been traveling or going too far, so
Okay.
they're painted during COVID.
Okay. COVID specials.
Yeah.
Very cool. What are kind of, did you do certain beaches or viewpoints that your favorite places to
Yeah, there's one at Port Susan.
Okay.
On Iverson. If you walk the Iverson path along the dike.
Yes.
If you go down to the end of the dike, it's there.
Okay.
There's one of a cliff that we painted at the state park. If you
Okay.
go where the cars are parked and look down at the end of the beach there it's a state park.
Yep.
And what else do I have out there? There's one up in the Cascades. It's of the Cleom River.
Okay.
And What else is out there?
Some other ones?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Most of them are one or two are from our front yard. One of a sunset that you can see Mount Rainier in the south
nice.
from,
Okay.
and another one that's from our front yard in the summertime when the flowers are blooming.
Okay. Very cool. Well, awesome. All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
Well, I just purchased a glass heart that I got out of the Gilded Gallery in Stanwood because my daughter loves hearts and it's her birthday, so I just bought that for $30.
Very cool.
So,
Awesome. Who is the most influential person outside of your family in your life?
well, I thought about that, and I think that on the island here, Pete DeMoto has been a good, he's been one of our favorites because he's so community oriented, and he's in Sound Water Stewards, and he started helping Jeff Erickson when Jeff Erickson
Yes.
just started his coffee.
Yeah.
And he's always helping community and people, so
Very cool.
he's my influential person.
Nice. All right.
Okay, this
Finish.
was weird.
Yes, this is a fill in the blank question. So I know this is weird, but I've always wanted to blank.
Well, I guess I've done a lot of things, but one of the things I haven't done that I thought would be real fun is go Western dancing.
Very cool.
But I don't think my husband's up for it.
You'll have to drag him out there sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Who is an interesting or fascinating person that I should interview next?
Well, we'll keep it in the D'Amatos and have Sylvia's interesting because she's
Okay.
had an interesting life. It's very diverse.
All right.
California, too.
Awesome. All right. And lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Slow down and smell the roses.
Okay. I mean, you've
Like
had,
most of us didn't when we were young.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've had a pretty packed life, and you've gotten to paint at some sounds like incredible different places, and that's really cool. You got to do all those things. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Brandon, for having me.
Yeah, and sorry about the noises. We're trying out my office, and of course there was louder noises than even usual. So
Yeah. And come see the show.
yes, and be sure to come up and check out the Loft before it's Diane's stuff in the Loft through the month of March. Before it's gone, so before it coming up. All right, Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Diane Hill for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.